This is a box of HO scale engines that I bought from eBay, and in today's video, I'm going to be taking them out, and we're going to be attempting to fix both of these locomotives in one video. So let me just get into taking these things out of the box. Alright, so here we go. These are both the locomotives. First up is an old Tyco knob hill trolley. The paint on this thing is in pretty rough shape, but hopefully this thing will just need a good cleanup. This will also be one that we can't really get too much into because it's got rivets on the bottom, but we're going to do our best on this thing anyway. And the second one is an engine that I've been after for a really long time. I had one of these as one of my first ever engines on the channel. This is a Playart 040. I had the exact same paint job and everything. Mine was in slightly worse shape, and this one is a much nicer looking engine, and that's the reason why I wanted this. I probably overpaid a little bit for this. I believe it was like $20 to get both of these two engines here. But considering that I paid $15 for my first one of these that was in much worse shape, I think that's a decent deal. So let me clean up some of this trash and other stuff, and we'll go test both of these engines out. Alright, I'll test these things out. Now I'll start with the tyco trolley, see what that does. I heard something briefly. It seems like it wants to go. So this thing's definitely trying to go. I think this thing just might need a good clean out and some fresh oil. So I'll stop this, and that'll be the first project of the video. Next up, the engine I'm more excited for, the Playart 040. It's pretty loud, but it does seem to run. Headlight seems to work too. So this thing, again, will probably just need some fresh oil, but let's get to work cleaning out and repairing both of these locomotives. So let's start with the tyco trolley. This thing shouldn't be too ridiculously hard. It's not very complex, neither of these engines are, but let's just get straight into it. I also think this is an older style one, not just because of the rivets, but also because this one actually uses flathead screws. Most of these slightly newer tyco trolleys I've seen all use Phillips screws, so I don't know if it's just an old thing or what, but it's different than what I've seen usually. I do also know that putting these things back together can be just a little bit difficult because of all the different pieces. I've had, I believe, 4 of these before, so this is not a new process to me. These windows do look a little bit warped. I wonder if that's because of the motor getting hot at some point in its history. So for us to actually be able to work on this thing, I'm going to have to pry these sides of the wheels off. I might need a stronger screwdriver. I'll be back in a second. Alright, that should provide us with enough access to go through and clean most of this out. It won't be perfect again because I can't get into absolutely everything here, but it should just be enough to get this thing running smoothly. That commutator really doesn't look all that bad. Usually I'd go a little bit more thorough, but I don't think it's that bad. I think just the brush might be dirty here. Yeah, most of that came off of the brush. There was not much on that actual commutator. Alright, I think that's all the gears and the commutator cleaned out the best I can. I think next up I do want to just clean off the wheels a little bit. And then I think all that really needs to be done is give this thing some fresh oil and grease and go test the thing out. Alright, so I cut the clip there just because I wanted to see if the wheels were engaged instead of using the vise, and they were, so I didn't actually need to use it. I also, just off camera, decided that I should put on some neodymium magnets because I was looking at some of these other parts and whatnot, and I kind of figured that because of how these windows are warped, that the motor was overheating. So neodymium magnets should lower the current draw, and the thing should overall run better. I'm not going to worry about cleaning up these parts yet because I'm going to be doing that soon, but it's time to put this whole thing back together and then go test it out. Alright, so this tyco trolley should be done. So now, let's go take this thing over and test it out. Alright, now that the trolley's all back together, let's give this thing some power. That seemed good until it stalled. It might just need to break in a little bit. It actually sounds really quiet for what it is. I don't know if you can hear it because of my microphone. It did just stall again, but I think that's pretty good. So now, onto the Playart 040. Alright, apparently my microphone was off that entire time, so I'll just put some music over that and give you just a little update. I was just talking about how this thing should be pretty simple to clean out, The only real major issue with this thing is trying to get this part off, which I did with ease. You just have to get these two little front and rear pins off, which was kind of annoying, but it worked out perfectly fine. I've got some fresh oil in here, and now all I'm going to do is take a brief break, put some Katie's in here, and then we can put the whole thing back together. Just to make it easier on myself, I'm going to put those contacts in off camera because that will be a pain, and then we'll go test this out as well. Alright, the couplers are back in, everything seems to be good, so now all I've got to do is put this thing back together, then I think I'll oil up the side rods just because that needs to be done and I forgot to do it. Alright, so now with all that work, some of it without any audio, but that's fine, it's time to go test this thing out, see if all that work actually paid off. Alright, it's time to test this thing out now, and I'm pretty excited for it. Hopefully that little bit of work I did will give it some pretty big improvements. It's a little bit noisy, a little bit more so going forwards, but that is actually really smooth. It actually runs really nicely at slow speeds too. This is only at like 20% power. This thing might actually be a good switcher. I almost want to put DCC in it, but there's not enough space in this engine to do it, so I don't think this engine's going to be able to get DCC. Overall, minus that slight audio mishap, I think this was a success. The only thing I didn't do is cosmetically clean these things off. I'll do that off camera, because I feel like this video is already getting quite long for just two engines. So, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.